Welcome to Dear Business Coach, the podcast. My name's Elizabeth. Find one thing to move your business forward today with conversations, spotlights, interviews, articles, and free resources. Listen and follow and subscribe on social media. Dear Business Coach pages and groups. Dear Business Coach podcast. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, YouTube, and don't forget Spotify, Apple, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. All it takes sometimes is one little thing to move your business forward today. Ask you, what I know about you a little bit. But first of all, Jessica, thank you for coming to the Dear Business Coach podcast. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, this is really fun. And I have had a chance to maybe think a little bit about your business, and also right now you are wanting to share about your business. Timing is important, right? So you have some things to point to today specifically, and that's what podcasts are fun for. It becomes an evergreen resource, but also something that is important for us to share, like updates, real stuff that not only can we look back on it, but also this is actually what's happening in Jessica's business today. So tell me a little bit about you. Who is Jessica Yarbrough?
So my background is in business. I'm a strategist, and specifically, I really focus on B2B coaches and consultants who want to sell and scale ultra high-end services. And so what I'm kind of known for is executive coaches, leadership development, strategists, change management, those kind of B2B coaches and consultants that want to sell six-figure packages. They come to me, we help package their genius and get them selling at a really high level.
Well, I don't really know if I understand like why there should be a distinction. So if I start out as a small business in the B2B space,
Mm-hmm.
I can start as an individual entrepreneur. I can start as a franchise. I can start from all of these different places.
Mm-hmm.
And there might be different versions of what high end means. Now,
Definitely.
that is that so am I already a high end offer when I talk to you? Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.
Yeah, well, it really depends, right? So I primarily work with established coaches and consultants that are already making six figures and they want to scale to high six figures or even seven figures. There are people that come to me that are already selling high end, right? They might have purchased, like you mentioned, someone else's franchise model. And that's really limited them on the way that they deliver. They don't own the IP. They can't license the material. They're kind of building their business under someone else's brand. So I have those folks that come to me. I have other people that are working under the umbrella of another coaching company where they'll get, large contracts, but they're only getting to keep, say, 60%, sometimes 70% of that contract. So they're really leaving like 30 to 40% of that client engagement money on the table. So I have people like that. And then I have other people who come to me and maybe they've sold 15,000, 25,000, 50,000. I've even had people come to me and they said, "Oh, I'm already selling high end. I have $100,000 deal." And I say, "Okay, let's look at what you're selling, how you're delivering it. What if we can get you 3 times more and back you out of some of that delivery so that you could scale?" So there's a number of different ways, that I work with clients, but you don't have to be selling high end already to work with me. That's a portion of the clients. It's also how can we do it better? How can we get you 100% of that in client engagement instead of 60 or 70%? Or how can we really take you from billing hourly to large engagements? So all of that varies. What they all have in common is that they're established in terms of they're credible. They've been doing this for years, and they're not all 10-year coaching or consulting businesses. Sometimes they're only coaching or consulting for a very short amount of time, but they've done this work in corporate for 10 years, 15 years. So, we don't want to diminish their genius, their expertise, because they're a newer entrepreneur. So they
Mm.
come to me and they're stuck. They're spinning their wheels in frustration. They typically have some resentment because they know they're undercharging. They really don't know how to charge more money. They're not standing out in the marketplace. They're kind of swimming in a sea of sameness. And this is especially true for my franchise model clients and my certified coaches, people that love to collect certifications. And so they're all stuck and they're like, how do I earn more money? How do I work with fewer yet even higher paying clients? And how do I scale without like sacrificing my sanity?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's funny. I actually kind of threw in the sample example of the franchise owner uh, as a reference point. I actually wasn't expecting you to say that you have an entire
Mhm.
segment of franchise owners, but it does make sense. But if to compare that to somebody who is
Mhm.
selling their own product or service, I guess I would think that you're aware that you can have the ability to scale and it's a choice, and
Right.
so that is a jump. That decision is a big jump in and of
Mhm.
itself. So a couple of excuse, uh-oh. Charlie, we're gonna have to stop that for a second. Let me just put him away because that's what
Okay.
happened is I wanted, yeah. And you said the word resentment as well,
Mhm.
as far as that. Now I'm actually looking at my notes thinking about two different things, and now they actually are coming together. So if I am someone who is
Mhm.
selling my own product or service, and
Yes.
I'm aware that scalability is an option, it's on the horizon. I probably have thought about that. Maybe I'm not sure when that's realistic. And if I am in a place where I feel like I already know that I should be charging more,
Mhm.
why am I not doing that already?
I mean, that's a great question. And that's the big question, right? And it's a number of reasons. Number one is fear or some kind of imposter syndrome. I don't
Mm,
know enough. I can't charge this much. Is people really going to pay me this amount of money? Along with that, I need to do something else first. Let me go get my master's. Let me go get my PhD. I need another certification. I need this piece of paper to tell me that I'm worth charging my rates. There's a whole inner game that happens, inner dialogue that's happening. The second is because not everybody is stuck in fear. Second is a lack of awareness of what the market is willing to pay. And so your frame of reference might be your colleagues who aren't charging very much, who are like, hey, 250 an hour is good, or 350 an hour. You have no idea that there are people out there who are charging $200,000, $300,000 for exactly what you do. Right. So there's that lack of awareness that really holds people back. And then the third is lack of strategy. Okay, I'm not afraid. Great. I think I know enough. Um, I know there are coaches and consultants out there charging a lot more money, but how do I get there? How do I do it? How do I position myself and put together a powerful program that's transformational, that's outcome based, and get successful at selling these large contracts that I've never done before? So it's one of those three things or a combination of those that really holds people back. But what I will tell you, Elizabeth, is that most people they're aware of this for a long time before they take action. I've had people come to me that are at the same revenue for 3 or 10 years before they come and they say, "Okay, I'm done." And that's what I mentioned that piece about resentment coming up because here's the reality. No one is going to volunteer to pay you more money. And I've done this over and over again with my clients where we raise their prices, we, upgrade their positioning, we do everything we need to get them successful at selling high end and they're able to go out there and do that to brand new markets. But there's also a conversation that we often have to help clients have with their clients that are severely underpaying for their services. And I give you one example of one of my clients. He had created $1 million in profit not revenue, $1 million of additional profit for his consulting client. He was a strategist in the previous year, and he was charging them nothing. I mean, next to nothing. And so I said, you're not congruent. You're creating $1 million worth of value. You're not even charging them six figures, right? Do you see that? And he's like, yes, I see that. You're right. So I helped him have that difficult conversation. And you know what the client said? Yeah, all right, you're right. We know we've been getting you for a deal, and yeah, sure, happy to pay you more money. Now imagine if he'd never hired me, had gotten the courage and the strategy and the confidence and everything he needs to go and have that difficult conversation. No one wants to have a conversation, by the way, with a client saying, "Hey, we got to raise your prices." No one wants to have that conversation. But if he hadn't had that, he would have continued helping add seven figures of value to that client relationship without receiving, you know, the money that was congruent with the value that he was providing. And so that's what I mean by like no one's going to volunteer to pay more money. And so much of the journey that we do with clients is yes, there's external strategy, but that is married with the internal mindset, the upgrading your inner game so that you can step forward with confidence and ask for that money.
I think that you have a way of sharing this idea in a new light. Now, I say that because I have conversations with people in business circles who talk about things like, what should I be charging? How do I figure out what I'm supposed to be charging? So I hear people talk about this, but I don't know that this is not exactly the same conversation when we're talking about am I a high end service? Am I a high end offer? When you have when thank you for sharing a story and putting that
Sure.
into an example. I mean, even just using a number is extremely helpful, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
$1 million in profit, not revenue. That's a huge distinction. And did that person feel like they were high end? You said
Mm.
that that person probably knew a long time before hiring you that they needed to explore this
Yeah.
side of their business. But did they feel like they were a high end person to begin with? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't feel like they thought they were really high end. Um, you know, I think that they thought it was okay, what they were making, that it wasn't cheap, but I don't think they considered themselves high end. I've only had a handful of clients who came to me and said, like I said, I'm already selling six-figure packages. How can you help me do it better? So I had one client who came to me who had a high six-figure business and said, literally, this is, I always tell clients, you can push back when people respond this way, and literally his message what to me was, I already am selling $100,000 packages. I don't think you can help me. All right, so my response was, great, congratulations, you're selling $100,000 packages. That's highly, that's a small percentage of coaches and consultants who are selling six-figure packages. And I asked him a list of questions. What about this, what about this? And those questions were like, how much time are you spending delivering? How much time do you spend on the road? Do you have systems and team? Could you take on more clients right now? Do you feel like you have time freedom? Like all these questions. And turns out he was maxed out on the road a third of the year, literally couldn't take on. He said, Jessica, if a client came to me today and handed me $100,000, I said, I'm ready to work with you, I couldn't take them on. That's how busy I am. So sometimes people are selling and they'll say, I have a really good business, but they're running themselves in the ground to do that. It's like, hey, or even clients who are making, hey, I'm making $1 million and I work 12-hour days. That's not freedom. That's a high paying job that you've created for yourself. That's not why people get into it. So even if you're selling high end, there's still work that we can do to optimize your systems, your team, to make sure you are charging and that you have a scalable solution and are not just on a path to burnout, albeit, a high paying path.
Yeah, well, and the reason why I'm asking you again and again is because this vocabulary is catching me, and I imagine that uh, it feels like a stupid question or a stupid thing to think about, right? Is, am I high end? What does that word mean?
Right.
Does it, is it something that I'm supposed to aspire to? Am I automatically high end because I'm charging you $100,000 for a contract? And I don't really know. Am I thinking
Yeah.
about, am I thinking in the right way? Where does the mentality start? So when someone is thinking about themselves in a category of a high higher than average price point
Hmm.
for not for
What
your
does that look
industry.
like?
That's not
Yeah.
exactly right. Well, what I'm getting at is not to be confused with luxury goods, right? Just
Right.
because I
Totally.
have
Totally.
a luxury
Yeah.
purse for sale doesn't mean that the service, the quality, the person, the experience that I'm presenting as my business partnership with you is high end. So when you say, what are you charging for what you have to offer, there's the aspect of working yourself
Right.
right?
Right.
Are you really getting paid for your time, or are you really just it looks good on paper, but you really yourself are working too hard? Or are you also thinking um that you probably are, you probably are not selling exactly the right points of what your efforts are, right? Quality
Right.
versus perception, I guess.
Yeah. I think it's a combination. Well, a couple of things. First, in my the word high end gets thrown around a lot. So let's kind of break that down.
Yeah.
Um, I had coaches that I hired in the past that said a high end is anything that requires a phone call. Basically anything that you can't sell off a landing page. So that could be over $2,000. What I find
Mm,
most people consider high end in the coaching and consulting world is like 10 or 25K, maybe 50K.
mm,
What I really focus on is the ultra high end, and that's
mhm,
where the floor is kind of 50,000 and the ceiling is multiple, 300, 400,000 and up. I mean, there are coaches and consultants out there that have $1 million programs. They're very comprehensive. They have many coaches and consultants under them, but that's kind of the ultra high end market. And then
mhm,
another really important distinction is that when we're talking about this kind of pricing, we are not talking about just slapping a high price tag on something, right? It has to be transformational. It has to be outcome based, and you absolutely need to have your I's dotted and your T's crossed when it comes to delivery, right? So and when we talk about outcomes, it doesn't always have to be where you're a business strategist that's going to add $1 million in profit to their bottom line, right? Like it doesn't have to be that. You can be a leadership development expert and you're going to improve their retention, get rid of their revolving door of talent that is costing them, you know, multiple six figures, if not seven figures a year. You can improve productivity. You can ensure they have a leadership pipeline. Like there's all kinds of transformational outcomes that really can be tied to ROI. And so when you do ultra high end, it has to be transformational. You have to have powerful outcomes. And then you have to have a really good client experience. Because if someone pays you a lot of money and they don't get what they're promised and they have a terrible experience, that's not a good thing. That's not going to help your brand reputation, and that's certainly not going to get you referrals from those other calibers of clients, level of clients, nor are you going to be able to create a compelling case study. So you really need to understand if you've created this program that's truly transformational and you've covered everything, what does it look like from a delivery experience? What does
mhm,
onboarding look like? How are you measuring success in your program? How are you keeping people on track and moving forward? Because with a big ticket comes a big promise. And so you want to be able to get to the end of that client engagement and them say, that was amazing. Let's do this again. What does year two look like? What does year three look like? I have clients who they land these big corporate engagements and they end up making seven figures from this client over the course of a couple years because they have got the delivery piece down, right? And they're
mhm,
doing really good work. And if you go into an organization, even at a high ticket, price tag, right? And you're doing transformational work and they see the results, they're going to hire you again and again and again,
mhm.
right? And so it's really a combination of transformational offer outcome and great delivery. It's all got to be part of that high end package.
Yeah, right. So thank you. And because there is a before there's a huge difference between Jessica says that I can just charge more.
Right.
And what are we what is the basis of the value? Now, what do you think about the um the idea of teams? So let's say
Yes.
that I have a system down and I think that I'm doing great. I just need that extra help from you to get there. I know that I have a track record with clients, and
Mhm.
it's time. What do you think about how to implement a team, right? What if I say
Mhm.
I'm ready, but I don't really know anything about doing this with a team?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. I think first and foremost, we solve the strategy like equation, right? Like what needs to be fixed in your strategy in order for you to scale and afford a team. That's going to be key, right? Because we don't want to just start throwing team members in there. So we need to make sure that you have the cash flow to allow the team in and that you have the strategy that's going to support that cash flow. So that's first. Then you land this big deal or you're getting ready to land big deals, and then we can start hiring team. And we do kind of like a needs assessment. What do you need based on your strengths and your weaknesses? What role do you need to fill first? So,
Mm,
for example, one of the more common roles that many of my clients have coming in might be a marketing, assistant, someone that's going to help drive and support visibility in the campaigns that we work on. A lot of people come to me with this role already. Some people are doing it on their own, but a lot of people have that. That's a great role to have. Let's say you've got your marketing person and you're ready for that next step and you're going to bring on lots of high-end clients. What's another role you might hire for? Would be client support. Someone that's going to handle scheduling, someone that's going to handle sending out contracts, making sure payments were made. I mean, these things take up a lot of time, energy, space for a coach or consultant. And if you want to grow your business, you kind of need these roles in place. You may not be the most organized and need an operations kind of project management type role. There's all kinds of roles that we can fill. Again, it's not about having a massive team. It's about having the right people that are going to
mhm.
help add value and help you grow your business faster. So all of them should be kind of self-funding, right? Because the marketing person should help generate business that's going to bring new clients in, and the client support person is going to help keep people happy so they stay and take hours off your plate that you're literally sending customizing proposals and sending payment reminders and all of that. I mean, there's so many things that people come to me and they're making 300, 400, 500,000 more or even more, and they're doing so much of it themselves. And I'm like, why are you doing this? What if we could take that 10 hours a week that you're applying to these tasks that someone else could do for really not a lot of money? I mean, you're still paying them well, but compared to what you charge your clients,
Mhm.
and we could have you instead speaking on stage or networking or closing deals or whatever, putting your thought leadership out there. What would that do to drive results to your business? And so it's about being strategic with who you need to hire, when to hire them, that sort of thing.
Mhm. Now, I want to, I before I want to, before I get to the very end, ask you where is it important for me to follow you
Yes.
and connect with you? Where can I talk with you for starters online?
Yeah. So I would suggest follow me on LinkedIn. That's where I put out content every day.
Mhm.
You can also go to my YouTube channel, and I do have a podcast on Spotify. And then I highly recommend everybody listening go to jessicayarbrough.com/influence and download my ladder of influence, which talks about the different levels of influence and where people get stuck and how to strategically ascend up the ladder, scale your authority, and grow your business to seven figures.
Oh, okay. So when I go to your LinkedIn page, you say you're there actively. I can see you and
Yes.
talk to you there, and YouTube and
Yep.
podcast on Spotify, as well
Yes.
as jessicayarbrough.com.
That's right. And just send me a message on LinkedIn. Let me know you heard me on the show, and I'll accept your invite.
Okay. Well, you know what? I let's see. Thank you. Before, I like to make sure I do that. Trying to get better at doing that, not waiting all the way until the very end. I think it's
Sure.
better. Yeah, and what? Let's see. When you are looking at me as a potential
Mhm.
someone who might be ready to work with you. I'm assuming you don't work with everyone. And so
Yeah.
I'm assuming that you might, want to find out if I'm ready to work with you.
Mhm.
And are there that's kind of a behind the scenes secret to ask, right? What are some
No,
of
I
the
think it's a
ways
good one.
what are some
Yeah,
of the ways
well,
that you suss me out?
yeah, well, first of all, I'll say that I reject 50% of on average of all applications that come through. And I know that is not what a lot of the guru coaches do out there. They have a bunch of closers and they don't care. They'll got
Mm,
commission-based sales folks doing their sales and they'll take anyone on. I'm very, very selective because I have a high-end, low volume business. That means I only work with, a certain number of clients every single year. So I really want to make sure it's an alignment. It's in total
mm,
alignment. And what I'm looking for is how long you've been in business, what your current revenue is, and do you meet our minimum kind of revenue requirements? What are your current challenges and goals, and do those match with the service that I provide? Um, what's your background credibility beyond your business? Like I mentioned, maybe you've only been in business 2 years, but you've been doing this for 15 years in corporate. Great. And then if you do kind of meet our application requirements, and we get on a call, I'm also looking at verifying everything you put in your application and is there an alignment of values? And so I'm not going to straight up come out there and say, hey, what are your values? But I'm going to ask questions that are going to reveal what kind of person you are. And that's going to tell me whether, I want to engage in a year-long relationship. So I'm very much like, as much as someone's coming onto a call and, vetting me, I'm very much looking to see, is this an alignment? And do I want to pour energy into this person and help them grow their business over the next year or 2 or 3, however long they stay with me? And so that's what I'm looking for. And it's got to be a match. And so I know not everybody does business that way, but it's very important to me that I do business with people that I like and that I feel I can help and that I feel are going to be successful in the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would not I would feel a little bit of buyer's remorse if I found out after the
Mhm.
fact that you're willing to work with anybody.
But unfortunately, that is our industry.
Mm.
And I get on calls with people every single month who have buyer's remorse from another program, because they were
Really?
sold by a salesperson into a program, promised the world. They got in there and it was nothing like what they imagined because they weren't even talking to the coach themselves. The coach doesn't even know their name. They're on a call
Mm.
with 100 other people. They have 30 seconds to answer their question. And they're kind of
Mhm.
left to their own devices and they get stuck. I've had people who came to my program that had amazing track records of like success in their entrepreneurial journey before becoming a coach or consultant and then joined a program where like the people weren't even on their same level. So, there are unfortunately, and this is true not only in the coaching and consulting, but the agency world, really anything, any service-based industry where people will take you on if you're not a fit. And that goes against everything I believe in. And so I'm looking, to stay in integrity with who I am. And I'm also looking for those kinds of people as well. If someone comes to me and they're just like, I just want to make as much money as possible, it's like kind of red flag for me. Like, what do you mean?
Mm.
You don't care about impact? You
Mm.
don't, what other things are important to you? Money is great. And I believe if you focus on, quality of work, the money comes with that. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't be in either or. And so again, that's where the values piece comes in. And I wish there wasn't so much noise out there and people doing that. But unfortunately, it's a reality. And as a coach or consultant out there, for those of you that are listening that do have integrity and believe in the model like I have, can make it more challenging for us.
Mm.
A lot of people come to me have said, Jessica, I spent upwards of, 50 to $100,000 before hiring you. And they
Wow.
all say, I wish I could have taken that money and just like invested it with you instead. I mean, and I say, I get that, but that, I understand. Me personally, I even easily have 80 to 100,000, probably over $100,000 invested that didn't really pan out for me. We all have those experiences, but there are lessons in those experiences as well. And, I think that's just part of entrepreneurship is getting discerning, making sure you're aligning with people that you feel are a values match and people that have a long track record of having helped someone just like you, right?
Yeah.
That's what you should look for when hiring a coach or consultant. And also
Hmm.
consistency, making sure that it's not someone who changes who they are every other quarter. Like, hey, I'm an AI coach. Before that, I was saying I'm an exit strategist guy, and before that, where there's no consistency. And that's one thing I have a client who's been with me for 3 years, coming up on 3 years, and she hired me after watching me for 2 years, 2 entire years. And one of the things she shared is like, you're consistent. You don't deviate. You always are there. You hold that space of this is who I serve. This is what I do. And you're not changing things, throwing out different offers and changing who you are every quarter, which creates confusion for the buyer and does not support credibility or creating expert authority for what you do. So look for those things and be discerning with your decisions and make sure that you're hiring someone that you really feel like connected to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that I hope that I hope that you will want to work with someone for at least a couple of years. That would be fantastic. Now,
Yeah.
I know I said it a minute ago, but we are kind of out of time.
Yeah.
What would do you think would be what if you had to say to me, if you thought yourself thinking this or that, then you're ready to call me and let's talk. Have you been thinking to yourself, you're
Mm.
probably going to tell me something related to that resentment piece, but how do I know when it's time to think about asking for you to examine me?
Yeah, well, I think it's a couple things. Like if you feel that I mean, one of the number one things is time and money. So those are the number one thing is time and money. So if you're maxed out and can't do more to make more,
Mm,
like, I don't know. Even if in that, by the way, sometimes that's someone making 200,000 and sometimes that's someone making 1 million. But if you're
okay.
in that position, it's a good time to have a conversation. And then money, if you're not making the money that you want, you feel like you're undercharging, or uh, you have a volume-based model where it's like you're selling a $5,000 or $10,000 package, and you need like 20 clients to hit what you're currently making, or 30 clients, 50 clients. That's a good sign as well.
Good answer. So I do encourage people to follow you on LinkedIn, and that way we can start a chat, or you can actually get some extra resources. And then the website too is actually pretty valuable, because I see media and I see results, so that's pretty that's not usually the title of a page on somebody's
Yeah.
website. Is results. I think this is a really comfortable website to use. And why am I saying this? It sounds really boring, but because I feel like I am getting to look at you and your case studies, which is actually really interesting. There's not really a ton of now, lots of examples, lots of testimonials, and those are all very helpful and useful. The word case study is important, though, because I just
Mhm.
want to point out that if anyone's interested, I can right now download and read a case study. So
Yes.
there's some, when you say a history or a track record,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can see that this is here for me too, to look at you.
Yeah, there's a ton of case studies we have. I have two case studies on two different consultants that we took, one coach, one consultant, to seven figures in a year. But there's also a ton of videos if you go on my Work With Me page, and these are credible business owners that are sharing their story from the heart. So we have tons of those. Go back, watch them. If you resonate, we can have a conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. I appreciate you meeting with me today. And Jessica, when you look at the show notes, of course, we can expect to be able to connect with you that way. So I
Yeah.
would love to have you come back and share some more stories. And I thank you
Sure.
for being on the Dear Business Coach podcast today. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you for having me. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hey, listeners, don't forget to subscribe to email if you haven't already. Do this at dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. And if you are a new subscriber, look for the magazine coming up. You can get a free download as a new subscriber. That's dearbusinesscoachpodcast.com. Thanks so much, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. Remember, you are a superstar.